أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن السادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Alhamdulillah. I apologize for starting this class a half hour late. I was working and I got caught up, and so we had to push it back a half hour. I don't want anyone to think that this is the normal time. The normal time is still 4:30, inshallah. I just pushed the class back a half hour late because I was working and I couldn't make it on time. Alhamdulillah. And I had to finish what I needed to finish today. Alhamdulillah. So we're going to get right into it. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Abdullah, Hakeem, Abdullah, Safiya, Kumi, Fatima, Ayub, the other Fatima, Gangster Granny, Gigi. Alhamdulillah. What up, Gigi? Holly, Arakia, Rashid, Imad, Zakaria, Kareem, Begum, Imadi. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad you all here. And you too, Samirah. You get a greeting too. Assalamu alaikum, Samirah.
Wa alaikum salam to be captain.
Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah, you on time today.
Don't start.
How you feel about yourself?
I feel stupid because I was making you some tea and I saw that you wasn't here.
Hold it for me.
I made it nice. And I'm like, he's not even here, mashallah.
Oh man, hold it for me, inshallah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Khadijah, running around on these YouTube streets. Alhamdulillah. Yahya, Allahu Akbar. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Yesterday we left off on page 47. And so the Sheikh is just quoting well-known scholars, well-known and universally respected scholars of the past and their positions and their actions with regards to teaching women. Alhamdulillah. So we're going to pick up from where the Shehu said similar statements, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلام تسليما الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I seek refuge in Allah from the rejected shaitan. May Allah bless our master, Sayyidina Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, companions, and give them peace. All praise are due to Allah, for he is sufficient for us. Peace be upon his slaves, whom he has chosen. As to what follows. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh to everyone, and wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh to all those who have given the greetings. We're on page 47. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Alhamdulillah. So we'll start here. Bismillah. Abdul Wahab Asharani said, I have in my possession about 60 of his works containing his lectures wherein he used to teach the women. He used to say, these are the women. They are not present in the classes of the ulama, the scholars, nor does any one of their husbands teach them. Similar statements were also made by Abdurrahman in his book Al-Kawakib and in the Ihya of Imam Al-Ghazali. Whenever there is a man present in the home.
Read the footnote where it says Al-Kawakib or Kawakib. Al-Kawakib.
This is mostly likely Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Rauf al-Manawi, who wrote the book Al-Kawakib ad-Duriyah, which is an early biographical work on the Sufi masters. He died in the year 1031 after Hijrah.
I'm just trying to warn you, don't start with your derogatory stuff, okay?
You and Imam Amin better leave me alone.
And obviously, the Ihya of Imam Ghazali, we are studying an abridgment of that in the morning with Imam Amin during the post-Fajr reflection. So this is the same person, same text, inshallah. So he says, he quoted Abdul Wahab al-Sha'rani when he was quoting Sheikh Ahmed ibn Sulaiman, and he used to teach women, and there were no men present in the class, and because these were the women that were left behind, and husbands weren't teaching them, and they don't attend the sessions of the scholars. And so that's where that previous quote comes from. And he says similar statements were made by Abdul Rahman in his book called Al-Kawakib and Imam Ghazali in his Ihya. Okay, continue, inshallah.
Bismillah. Whenever there is a man present in the home, teaching his wife, it is not permissible for her to leave the home for this purpose. However, if this is not the case, then she must go out in order to ask questions and learn what is obligatory upon her. The husband is in a state of disobedience by preventing her from learning. In any case, if she is learning what is obligatory upon her, then she must not leave the home to go to the gatherings of adhikr or to general classes unless her husband approves of it.
It is well known in Islam that under normal circumstances, the woman must seek permission from her husband to leave the house. And I know in this society during this time, that's like, a lot of modern women are offended by that, but that is Islam. But, and this is under normal circumstances. So if a woman is at home, she's in the house, and her husband is not teaching her Islam, her individual obligations, he's not facilitating or making a way for her to learn it somehow, then she can go out of the house without his permission, even if he's against it, in order to learn her fard-ain, her individual obligations. Now, as we stressed yesterday, the Sheikh is talking about the individual obligations, not just general classes that don't fall in the category of individual obligations. That's why he mentioned here in this last sentence that if she is learning what is obligatory upon her, then she must not leave the house to go to sessions of dhikr, where, and I'll make a few comments on that. Because the scholars differ, talking about the scholars of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'at. We're not talking about any other peripheral pseudo-Islamic or deviant groups. We're talking about Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'at. They differ on, nobody differs about gathering together for the purpose of doing dhikr, meaning remembrance of Allah, right? But however, they do differ on how that is done. For example, in the Maliki school, and you probably won't hear this or see this from a lot of modern day Malikis, but they find it makruh to do dhikr together in what is called Sultan Wahida, Salt al-Wahid, one voice, meaning in unison, doing the dhikr together, all together in one voice. That's why even if you go to, for example, an Eid gathering, right? You know how you do the takbirat, right? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, wa lillahil hamd. I'm sure a lot of us in the United States, when we go to the Eid, we hear everybody doing that together. But if it was done according to the Maliki school, you would hear everyone doing it, but they're not doing it together. They're not trying to be in unison with each other. Just everyone individually is saying it, right? And this is because in the school, the majority opinion or the well-known opinion is that you don't do dhikr, remembrance of Allah, together in one voice, in unison. There's nothing wrong with gathering together to do it, but doing it in one voice. And so a lot of people don't make that distinction. A lot of people try to make it seem as if the so-called strict Malikis, are against doing dhikr in Jamaat. It's not the Jamaat coming together part that's the problem. The problem is doing it in one voice. But in any case, that's a legitimate difference of opinion. So it's not anything major. So sessions of dhikr or to general classes, unless her husband approves of it. So in other words, if the wife is learning at home or learning some other way, or the husband is teaching her, and she says, I want to go to the masjid for whatever, some other class, or they're doing dhikr in the masjid, I want to go. The husband can say no, right? And she would be in disobedience by ignoring it and leaving the house anyway. So I'm just emphasizing how really the Sheikh is, in this particular book, he's talking about women learning their individual obligations. Now, in another book that is a little bit bigger than this one, not much bigger, but a little bit bigger than this one, he all of this same information is in there, but he also addresses women leaving the home for other purposes, and he gives a ruling on that. You can continue.
Bismillah. The author says in the Al-Madkhal that it is obligatory upon the husband to teach his wife, his children, his servants, and all of those who come under his authority. He must teach them about Iman.
Well, pause that right there and read the footnote so that we can know who the author of Al-Madkhal is and what is the Madkhal.
Bismillah. This is a well-known classical text quoted by the Shehu in many of his texts. It was written by Abdullah Muhammad ibn Muhammad ibn Muhammad ibn al-Hajj al-Abdari al-Maliki al-Fasi. He is known simply as Ibn al-Hajj. He was Ashari in Aqidah, Creed, Maliki in Fiqh, outward practice, and a well-known Sufi. The full title of the text is Al-Madkhal Ashar Asharif ala al-Madahib, which means Introduction to Islamic Jurisprudence according to schools of thought. He was originally from Fez, but traveled to Egypt, where he died in 737 after Hijrah. May Allah have mercy on him and raise his rank. Ameen. Again, it is obligatory upon the husband to teach his wife, his children, his servants, and all those who come under his authority. He must teach them about Iman, i.e. the articles of faith, Aqidah, Ihsan, spirituality, purification, Salat, prayer, Saum, fasting, Haid, menstruation, Nifas, postnatal bleeding, and whatever they need for social interaction.
So, alhamdulillah, again, we mentioned this ayat yesterday several times, and Imam Amin even mentioned it this morning. And this is something that all the brothers, the men, should highlight, should underline, should highlight, and should remember. It is obligatory upon the husband to teach his wife. يجب تعليم زوجتي والأولاد والعبيد وجميع من في حكمه. Right? It is obligatory upon the husband to teach his wife, his children, his servants, and all of those who come under his authority. It is wajib. It is obligatory. What's the ayat of the Quran that proves its obligations? This ayat that we mentioned several times yesterday, Imam Amin mentioned this morning. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم نارا قودها الناس والحجارة. O you who believe, save yourselves and your families from the fire whose fuel is men and stones. That part of the verse of the Quran, chapter 66, verse 6, is that part where he says, and your families, right? That part right there, wa ahlikum, and your families. That is the operative word in that verse that establishes the proof that it is an obligation, meaning it is wajib. When something is wajib, obligatory, that means it's a command. He must do it. He's sinful if he doesn't do it. And if he doesn't do it, Allah could punish him unless he forgives him. In other words, the person opens himself up for the punishment of Allah by not doing it. Because cool is a fi'lu amra, it's a command. It probably don't sound like it to a lot of you, but the word taqwa has the same root word as this word ku and fusakum. Save yourselves, protect yourselves and your family from the fire, right? And the way that you protect your family, the way that you save your family from the hellfire, be ta'dibihim, by teaching them or rearing them, by giving them adab. وَتَعْلِيمِهِمْ, and by teaching them, educating them. The responsibility for educating the family is upon the husband, not the public school system, not the imam, not the sheikh, the husband. And if the husband doesn't have the requisite knowledge or the ability to do it, he has to make a way so that his wife, his children, and his slaves, if he has any, will learn our individual obligations. We'll learn the deen. In other words, if he can't do it himself, it's still his obligation to make sure that it happens. He must teach them about Iman. He must teach them about the faith. Yalzamuhu min imani, about faith, right? Wa ihsan, and about Islamic spirituality, that thing that we talked about last night on the Black Imams Roundtable. I think there's an error in the Arabic. I have to. No, it's not. Wa wudu'i, and wudu, and salati, wa sawm, wa haid, wa nifas. And haid is menstruation. There's a way that you have to deal with menstruation. Nifas, that's postpartum or postnatal bleeding, right? There's a way that you have to deal with that in Islam. And Samirah, I would like you to talk about that. For example, talk about some aspects of the haid and nifas that a lot of sisters don't know, but it's obligatory upon them to know, inshallah.
Inshallah. Bismillah. For instance, in the Maliki fiqh, mens is defined specifically. It's blood that comes out by itself from the private part. So there's nothing that should affect that blood, make it come out other than it naturally flows. So you have three types of women in regards to height. And I won't say the Arabic right now because you over there making fun of me. First is the beginner. So that means this is a girl normally who just got her mens. And however long that mens lasts, that is her menstrual cycle. So if it stayed on for 3 days, that's what she go by. Her mens is for 3 days. And then you have the second level, which is the experienced woman. And it's broken up in 2 parts. One is a woman that have had her mens already established and it's consistent. So every month it lasts, for instance, that beginner 3 days. So say it never changed. So 3 days, that's how it is. But then you have those experienced women where it changes once in a while. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 10. And it's so important to learn this, because how do you know whether you have to pray or not? So this where it's obligatory for a woman to learn this information, which makes it obligatory for the man, the husband, the leader of the household, to know this information as well, so that he can teach it to her. So this is not exclusive for just the women to know. He needs to know. And for one reason why he needs to know, if he wants to divorce his wife, he can't just say, I'll divorce you. She has to be in a clean period. What does a clean period mean?
I just want to pause just to clarify something you said. When you're using the term experienced woman, this is any woman other than the one who, this is a woman who's just not her first mens. That's
Right.
what's meant by experience.
Right.
So once you have your mens one time, that first time, after that, you're an experienced woman. Don't think experience means like having intercourse or in the world. No, experience in this context means someone that's already had their first mens.
Exactly. So back to the husband wanting to divorce his wife, although it is the word slipped my mind. If he pronounce it, it is valid, but he's sinful. And if it's not the third talaq, we know in Islam you get three. Three strikes you out. I mean the talaq, not a kula. If it's the first or the second, he has to take her back. But it counts. So if it was the first time, he has to take her back. So one is down. He got two more to go. So in this instance, he must know that, okay, she had her mens. We had not had intercourse, because that's what makes it valid, the talaq. When she got clean from her mens, you didn't have relations, and you pronounce it. That's what it's called, considered a clean period. Some of us think, okay, she's not on her mens, that's all that matters. No, that's not at work. And the third category is the pregnant woman. Pregnant women can have their mens. And for each part of her pregnancy, it lasts a certain amount of time. And so if she's like from 1 to 3 months, she may have a certain amount of time. I believe it's 20 days. And then from 3 to 6, it's a certain amount of days. And also with that pregnant woman, when she drop her load, she goes into postpartum, right? And we call it nifas. And you bleed. Some women, they don't bleed long. As soon as they have the baby, the bleeding cease. Some, right? How blessed they are. But for the woman that had a baby, in the Maliki fiqh, you allow up to 60 days of bleeding. And it's technical situations in regards to that. It's not just 60 days. It depends on what's going on. So as you can see, it's just not simply knowing, okay, I'm bleeding. All right, I don't make salat. Bleeding doesn't mean because it's red. Your mens could be orange. It could be yellow. It could be creamy white. It's still considered your mens. It could be brown. It could be black.
Can you talk about just briefly the maximum length of the mens based upon what type of woman is having her mens? You don't got to get into detail, but just I'm trying to, convey to our family how important this is to learn.
Yes.
Right.
Now, far as the experienced woman, now we just said that she's broken up to, it comes on consistently and it doesn't come on consistently. It changes up. So let's just say it comes on consistently and she have a mens 3 days. But for some reason, her mens stopped at the 3 day. She makes ghusl, resume her ibadah. But then a couple of days pass, she start bleeding again. Okay, what do? You won't know because you didn't learn this. In the Maliki fiqh, you have up to 15 days of bleeding, and it can't exceed past 15 days. And I need to explain further than that. I just said that her mens was on for 3 days passed, and her mens came back on. Right? So 3 days passed, mens came back on that 7th day. In the Maliki fiqh, you have a period of 3 days that you attach to your menses. So if it came on the 7th day, you add 3 days to that. So it'll be 8, 9, 10, right? And it's really not 3, 8, 9, 10. Like we said, we already did 3 days. So that day that it resumed on that 4th day, on the 7th day, when you it's complicated. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not.
Yeah, the supererogatory moment.
If she had her menses for 3 days.
On that 7th day, that will be day number 4, right?
Right, that's what I was trying to say. On that 7th day, that's day number 4. And I said you add 3 days. So day number 4, number 5, number 6. If your bleeding is still continuing after that 3rd day, those 3 days that was added, in the Maliki fiqh, you make ghusl and you pray as normal. So that means if you're still bleeding, you just cleanse yourself properly, you make wudu, and you continue. Now, sister may say, how do I know if I'm on my mens or not, if I'm still bleeding? A period of 15 days, this is different from what we just said, that your bleeding can't exceed 15 days of bleeding. There has to be a 15 days of a cleanse day, right? A cleaning period. So when 15 days have passed by, that next day is what you'll consider your new menses. So as you can see,
in other words, if her menses went off and then a period of 15 days passed wherein she didn't bleed again, that next bleeding will be considered another mens.
Right, it'll be considered another mens. Thank you for clarifying that. So this is important to know when you have your mens. My sisters, you should have a calendar. They have apps on your phones these days. You can have a little Dollar Tree calendar and mark off when your mens come in. You may say, well, it don't matter, I'm not married or whatever. It does matter, because you need to know when you need to worship Allah. You're not on vacation when your mens is on, so you have to do something in place of it. But you need to know when you are clean to pray, and you need to know whether or not you should not be praying. As you know, not know, but I do have to throw this in here. Your mens goes off. Say it goes off like it's supposed to, whether you had to add days or not. You cannot be with your husband until you make ghusl. So even if there's nothing coming out, you have to make ghusl, because you're still considered to be in a state of haid. So you have to cleanse yourself via ghusl, make intentions that you're purifying yourself from that state so that you can have relations, and which is considered to be better, alhamdulillah, as well as other things. So as you can see, these are fardul ayn. This is why the Shehu is stressing this, because this affects other things. It's not just you. It affects other things and actions that you perform to make it sound. If you don't know that, you may be sinning. And brothers, as the Sheikh mentioned, you are sinful not teaching this. A lot of brothers don't know this. They may not know they're supposed to know this, but you are, because we were not taught properly. What should sisters do in place of salat during mens? Dhikr, you can still read. You can still recite Quran from memory. You cannot touch the Quran while you're in your mens. You can have someone turn the pages for you. There's other ways. Just don't make it like it's a vacation. People think that, okay, I'm on my mens, I don't have to worship Allah. No, your mindset should still be in the state of ibadah. When salat comes, instead of making salat, make dhikr during that time. Do the things you usually do after salat. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to work around it, just so that you'll be in constant remembrance of Allah. Because the shaitan tricks us to think we are on vacation. MashaAllah.
And obeying Allah is worship. Because like a lot of times, a lot of sisters feel that, during my menses, I can't pray. So, I can't worship Allah. So therefore spiritually, I'm going down. No, that's only in your mind because Allah told you not to pray during your menses. So you obeying Allah in that is in fact worship, just a different type of worship. See, ta'ah or obedience to Allah is part of what makes worship worship. So the thing is not doing what Allah told you to do when you want to, is doing what Allah told you to do when He told you to do it. That's what worship is. Well, alhamdulillah. You can continue.
Bismillah. If the husband is not learned, he should study under a reliable scholar and then teach her what he has heard. If he doesn't do that, she is permitted to leave the home for the purpose of learning. If the husband objects to her leaving the home for the purpose of learning these things, which we have just mentioned, then she must leave the home anyway, without his permission. And the ruler should force him to comply in this matter in the same way he would force the husband to pay his wife's maintenance and nafaka. Indeed, learning Allah's deen is more important azam than maintenance.
SubhanAllah. Look what the Shaykh said here, because if we were living under Islamic authority and the husband wasn't paying the wife's maintenance, wasn't taking care of her, the ruler, the judge, or whoever's the authority in his locale would force him to take care of his wife. The Islamic judge or Qadi, the Amir, the Imam, whoever's running things in that area would literally force him to take care of his wife. In the same way in this country that the IRS forces you to pay taxes or the court make you pay child support or garnish your wages, however they do it. If this was an Islamic, if we lived in an Islamic area and the brother had a wife and he wasn't paying her maintenance like he's supposed to, and he had it, the judge or the court or the leadership would take measures to take the money from him by force to take care of his wife. And he said, he said, but rather indeed, learning, meaning learning Allah's deen is even more important than the maintenance. And look how the scholars think. Like it's obligate, like, think about it. If a brother is not paying his wife's maintenance, right, you're going to hear about it from the sisters. This should change our thinking if it already hasn't changed our thinking by up to this point in the book. In the same way that if a brother was married to a sister and not taking care of it properly, even if they didn't live under no authority, they just like the average Muslim nowadays. They don't have no imam. Their Islam just exists only like on social media, right? They got a husband and the brother ain't taking care of his business. Facebook going to hear about it. Right? He going to get dragged, right? he going, right? Or the sister, all of the pictures they got together, all of them going to get deleted. So you going to go to the sister page, you ain't even going to tell if she married or not, right? All of them, my soulmate pictures, all them pictures gone. All them pictures is gone. And all of the happy times and all that kind of stuff, all that's gone. And then all the hypothetical stats going to come. Asking for a friend. What if you married to a bum who don't want to take care of his wife? Just asking for a friend, right? Right. All those stats going to come out, right? That's because he ain't taking care of his responsibilities with regards to taking care of his household, feeding his wife, clothing his wife, feeding his children, taking care of his children, right? Right? May Allah help brother who in that situation, wife drag her, right? But how many sisters drag their husband for not teaching them the deen? And knowledge of the fard ayn, knowledge of your individual responsibilities in the deen is even more important than clothing and shelter and all of these things. So look, so the Sheikh is saying that In the same way, the ruler would force the man to take care of his wife. He should force the man to educate his wife. And as the Shehu said, if he's blocking, he's hindering, he would force her. Okay, you're not teaching her, you're not allowing her to teach, you're not allowing no teachers to come into the house. She's going to class, and you can't stop her. But this is what makes our situation so precarious, because we not living in an environment where any Muslim leader or ruler can force anybody to do anything. And that's why it's called the Wild Wild West. People do what they want to do. And so all of us who have leaders and all that, they're our leaders by choice, not because anybody forced them on us. And so, and living in a situation like this is bad for the men, but it really hurts the women, because when a woman is being done wrong and she's not getting her rights, there's no one in the Muslim community that can force her, that can force the husband to give the rights, right? Not in reality. I mean, we could do the good old school days, but people's telling now. Well, back in the day, the masters had a basement. Brother treated his wife wrong, he might find himself in that basement, right? Not nowadays, you talk about bringing somebody to the basement. Before you get the word, before you finish saying base, before you get to the word mint, right? He done dialed 911 on his phone. These Muslim brothers crazy, man. 6ix9ine is snitching. Why I can't snitch? He telling on people. He's still out here rhyming and stuff, doing shows. He got out of jail. Why I can't snitch on the Muslim leadership who's forcing me to take care of my wife? Yeah, that's in the good old days. Like Sophia said, the women are at a severe loss. That's why it's extremely important that you scrutinize who you're going to marry, because there's no Islamic governmental authority that's going to force him to do anything. You at his mercy. Only thing that Imam can do is like, brother Fairlaw, you shouldn't be doing that and all that kind of stuff, whatever. You might have a good Imam and a solid community that's ready to risk, their freedom by protecting the sisters. And may Allah bless all of those masters and the communities like that. But you just know, like when you marry a brother and he don't fear Allah, and you go to the Islamic community, the leadership, and they try to step in to protect the sister, they could potentially go to prison defending you. Because a lot of these guys that don't give women their rights anyway, they tell it anyway, right? So, alhamdulillah. Anyway, inshallah, continue.
Bismillah. Sheikh As-Sanusi, and I'll read the footnote. He is Imam Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Yusuf ibn Umar ibn Shu'aib As-Sanusi al-Husayni al-Maliki, and he was born in 870 after Hijrah. He was a scholar.
That says 830 after Hijrah. I don't know. Maybe.
What did I say?
You said 870. I don't know. Maybe according to the supererogatory, alphabet, maybe a 3 is a 7. I don't know.
There you go. 830 after Hijrah. He was a scholarly descendant of the Prophet, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, as his name indicates. The Imam was the leader of the scholars in Tilmisan, which is located in modern-day Algeria. He was Maliki in fiqh, outward practice, and he wrote many books on the Islamic belief system, al-Aqidah. Among them are al-Aqidat al-Kubra, al-Aqidat al-Sugra, al-Aqidat al-Muqtasida, and many others, including the book quoted by the Shehu above, which is his commentary on al-Aqidat al-Kubra. He was sick for 10 days before dying on Sunday, the 18th of Jamadul Akhir, 895 after Hijrah. After he died, those around him smelt the aroma of musk. May Allah raise the rank of our Imam. Ameen. Sheikh As-Sanusi says in his Sharh al-Kubra, in a discussion regarding the state of affairs wherein the people neglect educating the common people, the women, the children, and the servants. They are in fact being reduced to a state similar to that of wild animals, wherein they are not held accountable.
Because on the day of judgment, animals will not be held accountable. Animals will participate in the day of judgment, right? In other words, animals will be given clear speech and they'll be able to testify against or for us. I saw him going to the bar. I saw him coming from the masjid. I saw, animals will be given clear speech on the day of judgment. And even amongst them, if there was any injustice being done, but after that, there's like no hellfire or Jannah for the animals. It's going to be said, kun turab, and be dust, and that all the animals will be changed into dust. That's why many of the awliya, the protected friends of Allah, when they reflect on their own state, they would say things, would I be an animal? Or even a pig, right? Because even a pig, as dirty and unclean as that animal is on the day of judgment, after all is said and done, he's going to be turned into dust. Whereas us human beings, we either going to go to the Jannah or Jahannam. We're going to go into paradise or the hellfire. And the day of judgment is a scary affair. And so just that process, that event by itself, it should, bring fear, put fear in our hearts. And so the Sheikh is saying that when the women are not educated, they are being reduced to a state similar to that of being wild animals because they don't have knowledge, even the basic knowledge. And so like animals are not held accountable, right? But as we mentioned yesterday, when it comes to seeking this basic bare minimum level of knowledge, everyone has some level of accountability, meaning the ones who know have to teach. Ballighu anni walau ayat, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, relate from me even if it's one thing, one verse, right? So you don't have to be a scholar in a general sense, but if you know a thing, whoever learns mas'alatan wahidan, man ta'allama mas'alatan wahida, whoever learns one issue, one case, one ruling, for who are alimun biha, he is a scholar in that thing. So if you only know how to make wudu properly, it is obligatory upon you to teach someone how to make wudu properly. And so this, as we said, each one teach one, right? This learning and teaching process, everyone should be involved in it. You got the shirt on, right? Everyone should be involved in the process. And so, if you know that you're supposed to know and you don't go after the knowledge, you're sinful. I'm supposed to, there's a certain baseline level of knowledge that I'm supposed to have in order to perform certain actions properly. If you're not going after that knowledge, you're sinful, even though you don't know, because you're supposed to know, and you're not breaking a sweat trying to learn. And so, alhamdulillah, we're going to stop there for today, inshallah, and tomorrow we'll pick up on page 53, inshallah. Are there any questions? Alhamdulillah. Samirah, do you have any comments?
I want to remind the sisters, although this book is addressing the brothers, that this is an admonition for the women as well, because the Prophet ﷺ said, Talabul ilmi faridatun ala kulli Muslim. Seeking the obligatory knowledge is wajib. It's obligatory upon every Muslim. So although if you're in a situation that your husband is not teaching you or not wanting to teach you, you have to seek it. And you cannot use that as an excuse that you didn't get the knowledge. But some of us think that if I don't get it, although I have the ability to get it, I'm not held accountable. Then I'm not going to get it. So I'm safe. You're not safe. And you need to be mindful of who you marry in the first place. Not so much just for yourself. Is this person going to be a good fit for you, the children that you may have or your family, unit? So let's stop playing games, because I know people that will not learn on purpose because they don't want to be held accountable. And that's sinful right there, because you had the ability and you choose not to learn. You got this walk, like you try to find a loophole for everything. There is no loophole. Seeking knowledge is seeking knowledge. Especially with the Fardul Ain. Let's stop playing games. That's all I wanted to say, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. It looks like there are no questions. It looks like there are no questions, so we'll close out, inshallah, and resume tomorrow at 4:30. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our Shaykh Uthman Ibn Muhammad, known as Dan Fodiyo. Taqammadahu lahu bi rahmati ameen. Let's recite Fatiha and give it to the soul of the Shehu. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت واستغفرك وأتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.